being developed by Eli Lilly and Verve Therapeutics, its own company. And the early numbers are certainly striking here, because in phase 1B trial involving 35 people at high cardiovascular risk, a single intravenous infusion reduced LDL cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol, by up to 62% at the highest dose that was tested. Now, the reduction in LDL and the targeted protein PCSK9 also remained broadly durable in the follow-up, extending up to 18 months in some of those participants. So very quickly, how does it work? Well, VERVE-102 targets a gene called PCSK9 inside the liver cells. The PCSK9 plays an important role in how the body clears the LDL cholesterol from the bloodstream. The treatment uses base editing to permanently switch off that gene in the liver cells. The idea is to recreate something that already happens naturally. Some people are born with loss of function variants in PCSK9. They tend to have naturally lower LDL levels and lower cardiovascular risk. So this isn't simply another cholesterol lowering drug. It's an attempt to change the biology that drives cholesterol, that too with one treatment, one shot. And that is why cardiologists are paying attention. We've got one here with us on the broadcast. We're going to soon introduce them to you. But here is where we need to separate the promise from the proof, because this was an early stage trial with just 35 participants. The numbers look real good, but the treatment has shown that it can lower LDL. It is not yet established that VERVE-102 itself prevents heart attacks or strokes. And perhaps the biggest question is, of course, the safety. The interim trial reported no treatment-related serious adverse events or dose-limiting toxicities, although some participants experienced low-grade infusion reactions and some sort of fatigue. But a permanent genetic change raises a very different question from taking a drug whose effects can be stopped. We have months to 18 months of encouraging data, not decades of safety data. Let's make that absolutely clear. So who could ultimately benefit? Well, of course, the first candidates are likely to be people at particularly high cardiovascular risk, including patients with inherited forms of very high cholesterol, rather than everyone with a mildly elevated cholesterol level. And that distinction is again crucial, because this is not a reason to stop your statin. It is a glimpse into where cardiovascular medicine could potentially go next. And a world where preventing heart disease may involve not just managing cholesterol every day, but making a precise one-time change to the way our bodies handle it. Well, with us on the broadcast, let's put all of that under the microscope with our cardiologist and internal medicine expert, O.P. Yadav, CEO, National Heart Institute. Many thanks, Doctor, for yet again taking out the time and bringing us, ever more closer to this groundbreaking innovation, if I could put it that way. The headline number says 62% reduction in LDL after just one infusion. How significant is that clinically, sir? Even though we know that only 35 patients have been subjected to this test, and we need more data before we start putting that out into the market, or doctors such as yourself start prescribing it. But how significant are these numbers?
Oh, well, these numbers are absolutely phenomenal. They are very significant. But here, if I can issue a caveat, see, your prologue was wonderful, but we seem to be selling this drug or this genetic form of manipulation of our cholesterol as the panacea to all ills. The viewers must know that deposition of cholesterol is not just by high levels of cholesterol. There are other factors like inflammation, like HDL cholesterol, which is the good cholesterol. Now, that is not affected by this form of genetic manipulation. So we must not forget that lifestyle intervention, and as you rightly said, other forms of drug therapies are not going away. It is a very important advance, but it has to be seen in the right perspective.
And doctor, you see, permanently targeting this this little gene, the PCSK9 in the liver cells, from a cardiologist perspective, what is the real advantage of changing this biology once rather than using statins or our inhibitors that we use, the PCSK9 inhibitors repeatedly?
Okay, so let's get to the basis. LDL cholesterol, which is the bad cholesterol, circulates in the blood, and the nature has given certain receptors on the surface of the liver which internalize or scavenge these bad cholesterol or LDL cholesterol, get it into the liver and destroy it. Now, that is the natural process. this LDL cholesterol receptors, they are down regulated by the PCSK protein. And once we sort of take care of the gene which makes the PCSK protein, then our LDL receptors will increase in numbers and the LDL cholesterol will come down. So that is the whole premise behind the use of these gene therapies. So the main advantage, obviously, is that you do a one-time genetic manipulation so that compliance is not a problem. But we must also not forget that gene therapy has its own problems down the line. Does it produce any, if it produces any other effect on any other element of the genetic
I was going to come to that, doctor. I was going to come to that because the biggest conceptual issue seems to be the permanence. If you permanently switch off a particular portion, a particular gene, what are the cardiovascular or the biological risks that we then need to monitor, let's say, over the next 5 or 10 years?
See, the biggest risk is, the unexplored. The human genome, lot of this has not been, it has been decoded, but the function has not been delineated as it. We call a lot of it as junk DNA, where we thought there was no function attached to that portion of the DNA. But today we know that that junk DNA is not junk. That is very much necessary for the stability of the entire gene. So it's time will only tell, but I tell you, sky's the limit for the damage.
Absolutely. I mean, I can clearly understand that, the entire medical fraternity and the cardiovascular studies, these results have certainly excited the entire realm. But, the study has shown a substantial LDL reduction, but it hasn't yet demonstrated fewer heart attacks or strokes. From your own understanding of this study, and I'm sure you've gone through the medical journals as well, how much can we reasonably infer from these LDL reductions at this phase 1B stage?
Well, I mean, if you extrapolate, definitely just reduction of the LDL cholesterol is likely to bring the risk of atherosclerotic disorders like heart attacks, strokes, and even some malignancies or cancers down. There is no doubt about it. And today we are talking of dropping LDL to as low as 50 and even some studies looking at 30 mg/%. So it is likely to bring benefits.
Okay. And if larger trials confirm safety, they confirm durability, what do you think should be the first line of patients when it comes to treatment? First line patients considered for something like this? Is there a key group that you would want to, want this medicine be administered to?
Yes. So first line, always, without any doubt, is lifestyle intervention and changing your diet and looking after exercise, avoiding smoking, sleeping well, relaxation, take care of your diabetes and blood pressure and those kind of things. Special group of people, one, you already mentioned in your prologue, familial hypercholesterolemia means those kind of disorders which are running in families and where cholesterol levels go up to 600 and 700 and 1,000 four figures. Second is if the diseases occur in very young people with lots and lots of strong risk factors, including a very strong family history. So they have got a very high, more than 10% risk of developing a heart attack and atherosclerotic disorders. They are the patients we can use. And lastly, those patients who are intolerant of statins, who cannot take statins, we can use these drugs.
Okay. Doctor, before I let you go, of course, your takeaway for the viewers, your final takeaway, even as we close down this health segment, but we already have highly effective cholesterol medicines out there. Why is there still a need for something as radical as gene editing?
One, it is more effective than the other forms of treatment. Second is the other forms of treatment are recurring. And when they're recurring, the compliance rates are very low. And we have seen following a heart attack for a month or two, patients take medicines and thereafter human memory is short, they give it up. So these kind of treatments, one instituted, then you don't have to do repetitive, or even if it is repetition, maybe after 2 years, 5 years. So the compliance will go up. That's the biggest advantage.
Okay. All right. For millions living with high cholesterol out there, the idea of a single treatment replacing years of course, repeated medication sounds almost revolutionary. And VERVE-102 gives us an early glimpse of that. But just like the caveat that was issued by the doctor here, and many thanks, Dr. Yadav, CEO, National Heart Institute, for taking on the time and helping us put this story and these clinical trial numbers into perspective. Medicine has a very important rule. Promise is not the same as proof, but of course, sky is the limit and there is a silver lining here. Let's hope for the best. On that note, we've come to the end of this edition of In Your Interest. We're going to catch you again tomorrow. Many thanks for watching.
लास्ट टाइम कश्मीर गई थी ना, वहाँ खाया शहद, पर उसके लिए